Welcome to the Uncultured Cinematic Universe. Here we discuss your favorite movies of all time, as well as the ones that got away. We look at classic and iconic films from two perspectives, that of the diehard fan and that of the uncultured who's never seen it before. Until
That's
now,
me. That's me.
it's Justin this time. We're your hosts, Joe and Justin, here to act as your guides, playing the part of both the fellow enthusiast and the ignorant and uncultured, which again is Justin.
Let it be known.
Today, today we will be girding our loins and
Oh,
talking about the 2006 film The Devil Wears Prada.
man, how much fun was this?
Justin, this is your first time watching The
Yeah.
Devil Wears Prada. How did that happen?
Oh my God. I don't know how it happened. I imagine we'll get into it, but oh man, you can tell the product placement and
Insane.
the product logo shows up immediately. It's great. It was a
This
lot
is
of
the
fun. I
most
have some thoughts. Yeah.
it's the most 2006 movie of all time, and I can't wait to get into it.
If someone ever asked me, like really specifically, like what was the year 2006 all about? This is that film. This is the time capsule. Holy moly.
The phones in this movie, I feel like phones come up as a pretty big theme in our podcast episodes so far. Like, obviously not with Gladiator, but definitely with Scream.
Yeah.
And the phones in this movie are just of a certain, like, very specific 2 to 3 year period right before smartphones became a thing.
This was the height of the Sidekick and T-Mobile, like just dominating.
I wasn't even allowed to have a phone back then. So like you're gonna have to educate me because she at one point in this movie she pulls out what looks like a like Star Trek torture device and
Yeah.
she's like, this is like the latest and
Oh,
greatest phone from like
I thought it
this
was a
rich guy
sex
that
toy.
Miranda didn't want. It looks like a sex toy.
It does. Oh, it's so good. But yeah, so yeah, we're talking about The Devil Wears Prada. Indeed, she does. Let's take a look. Let's take a look to 2006, and yeah, let's look at this trailer.
Miranda Priestley's the editor-in-chief of Runway.
So you don't read Runway?
No, not to mention a legend.
And before today, you'd never heard of me?
No. You work a year for her and you can get a job at any magazine you want.
You have no style or sense of fashion. No. That wasn't a question.
You got a job at a fashion magazine? What was it, a phone interview?
Who is that? Are we doing a before and after piece I don't know about?
In the world of high fashion,
There you are, Emily.
Actually, it's Andy. My name is Andy.
A million girls would kill for this job.
Is there some reason that my coffee isn't here? Did she go to Rwanda for the beans or something?
where so much is at stake,
I need 10 or 15 skirts.
Hello?
Where are my eggs? Lingerie.
She is vicious.
Andy Sachs is about to discover
She hates me, Nigel. There's a way that you can help me.
Little Crisco and some fishing line and we're in business.
it's not just about what you wear,
What do you think?
Andy, you look so chic.
You look so thin.
Do I? Just one stomach flew away from my goal weight.
it's about who you are.
Nate.
got it.
Let me talk to her.
No, the phone. I'm leaving right now.
Do you know why I hired you? I see a great deal of myself in you.
The person whose calls you always take, that's the relationship you're in.
Let me know when your whole life goes up in smoke. That means it's time for a promotion.
People think that success just happens to you. It doesn't. You want this life? The decision's yours.
The Devil Wears Prada.
Wow.
It's so strange to have the trailer guy's voice just say the devil wears Prada like it's a cute little rom-com.
It is not. Oh my God. I have several issues with this movie, and we'll get into it. But so right out the gate, this is really entertaining. And like we were hinting at the top, it is such a time capsule of 2006. I feel like when did Sex and the City come off the air? When did
I think Sex and the City was like 98 to either 2004 or 2006. I don't know. I never watched it, but it's interesting you bring that up because I think a lot of people who worked on Sex and the City translated over to this movie.
Okay, so Joe,
from what I read.
First of all, I've seen way more Sex and the City than you have. That's crazy. You need to go
I've
back.
never seen a full episode.
You need to go back. It's fun. You can see a lot of that in this. This is, even though this is a post 9/11 world that we're living in, the romanticism of New York City is alive and well in this movie. It's the typical thing, right? It's the shy girl from Midwest, middle America wants to move to the city to be a what? A journalist. I want to be a writer.
Of
I
course.
want to be a writer.
Women in film were only allowed to be like three things, and journalist was one of them in
Was
the
the
early
top
2000s.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I knew more about New York or ever lived there, I'd be able to catch all the references that they make in this movie, because like they're constantly just going in and out of stores and restaurants, and her boyfriend works at famous restaurants and stuff,
Mhm.
and it's just like reference to every single little spot in New York that she is constantly running around towards.
It's very deep, yeah, for sure. I've only been to New York like a couple times, and not enough to like fully appreciate it. So yeah, I can see that there's just tons of references, tons of things. But I have some issues with this movie. So many.
Oh, there's certain bits that don't age well. And I'd
You
love to hear your
cannot, you
thoughts.
could not make this movie in 2022, the year of our Lord. You can't do it. There's so many things, but
What'd
yeah,
you
I thought
think?
it was good. It was entertaining. It was not what I was expecting it to be.
What were you expecting it to be? What were your thoughts going into this?
So we'll get into it later. I don't want to spoil anything too soon. I didn't see the ending going that way. I thought it was going to be a little more uplifting, kind of like your typical like change the course a little bit. You can change people, but people don't change, kind of thing. It didn't go
You
out
thought
the
it'd
way
be
I
a
thought.
little bit more like Working Girl, like
Yeah, I thought it would be a little bit more
Carly
like that.
Simon singing at the end.
Yeah, I thought it would be a little bit more triumphant. Instead, the world is left in shambles, apparently, but on a high note. It ends on a high note. It's really weird.
It ends on an optimistic question mark.
Kind of does, yeah. Afterwards, my wife and I were talking about it. She thought it was going to be more of like a My Fair Lady type of situation.
So
Which-
your wife had never seen
The
the
Devil
movie
Wears Prada.
either.
No. So we had a real
What?
fun discussion afterwards. But yeah, that was one of the main things that we pulled out from it. First of all, so I'd never seen My Fair Lady. I didn't get the reference. I didn't understand what she was saying. She's like, well, it's, she tried to explain it to me, and I was like, oh, it's She's All That. She's like, exactly. So
Which is essentially My Fair Lady teen rom-com, right?
correct. So she thought it was going to go that way of like, Miranda was going to hire a schlub because she can, kind of thing, and I'm going to change her. And I thought, this every girl was going to come in and like change the mind of the staunch old lady, but it didn't go that way.
Oh, no, this is much more about a battle of wills and giving people insight into the ins and outs of the fashion industry. It does continue the grand old line of movies where Anne Hathaway gets a bold makeover, starting with Princess Diaries,
Yeah.
and strolling right into Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my history with this film, I first, so this movie came out in June of 2006. I first saw the poster for this movie when I was with my soccer team on an away game during the summer, and we were seeing the movie RV starring Robin Williams.
Oh, wow.
Did you ever catch that one?
I didn't
So
see
it's-
that one. I didn't see it.
it's-
No.
It is just okay.
Weird.
But that's for some reason my first memory of Devil Wears Prada is seeing that one poster where like the heel of her shoe is the little pronged
Yeah.
trident.
Like on the white background. Yeah, very stark. Yeah, that is some stark
Very
imagery.
very minimalist posters.
Yeah.
It was based off of books, so I'm assuming people knew what to expect from this movie, but it seems like they they weren't showing a lot of the actual story
Yeah,
in their marketing campaigns.
which is neat. It so based on that poster, right? Like you kind of get what it's going to be about. Like it's a fashionable like
It's
high heeled stiletto, but with like a devil pitch thing.
it's
Pitchfork.
fashion, baby.
It's fashion, baby. Like you don't get it. It could have easily been tied in. Could it have been a sequel to 1997's Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser? Maybe. I could have been
That
fooled
movie
by that.
is
Terrible.
that movie is insane.
It's so good though.
That movie could not be more different from this movie.
No, so I mean, there's that. But yeah, I remember seeing the intro of like based on the novel by whatever, and Ryan, she was like, "Oh man, I didn't know it was a book." She's a big book person, so she might buy it and read it. Just see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll get into it, but this movie is based on a novel by the former personal assistant of Anna Wintour. So I'm sure in your research you picked up on the fact that like Miranda Priestley is maybe based off of Anna Wintour, who is the current editor-in-chief of Vogue. Runway
Ooh.
is Vogue, yada yada. Lots of parallels there.
Oh boy.
And the kind of the funniest note about the production of this movie is that it was constantly haunted by the small British figure of Anna Wintour, because so many of the fashion industry workers that they consulted with this movie, that they wanted to appear in this movie, were constantly afraid of backlash from Anna
Really?
Wintour. Oh yeah,
Living up to the characters, yeah, like just feeding
because
into it.
they're portraying Meryl Streep as the villain in this movie.
100%.
Although
Yeah.
we'll get into that. And if
Who's the
she's
real
supposed
villain?
to be, that's going to be my ultimate
That's the
question.
question.
For you.
I know. I can't wait.
I'll let you do the plot description, and then that's
Ooh.
the first thing I'm going to ask you. But yeah, production was haunted by Anna Wintour. I think in recent years she's kind of like come around to it, just because people love this movie so much. She doesn't. I doubt she wants to be seen as like clearly hating it.
Yeah.
But I've seen this movie a million times. I love it. It is endlessly quotable. We're going to talk about the monologues. We're going to talk about the montages.
Yeah.
We're probably going to touch on the impact of this movie on gay man culture as well.
I'm curious to know about all of this, for sure, because I obviously like I'm not like familiar with it, so like I'd only like heard of it in just the general zeitgeist that this is an important movie, and I want to know why.
There's a rather large subsection of gays who tend to really be drawn to / worship just powerhouse female performances in movies.
Well, yeah.
And this is just such a prime example. I mean, it's Meryl Streep, and it's arguably one of her best performances.
She chews every line of dialogue. Oh. She eats up the scenery. She came to play. She came to play.
Every line in this movie, every word in this movie kind of changes how you feel about the scene. There's some specific quotes I want to get into. Obviously, we got to talk about Emily Blunt. Some Blunt talk here. Pass the Blunt.
Pass the Blunt. Yes, I love that section.
Welcome back to Pass the Blunt, where we talk about Emily Blunt's role in Devil Wears Prada. This is our 52nd episode.
Yep. It's the same thing every time.
My first big Tucci movie, too. I really didn't have much experience with Stanley Tucci before seeing this movie.
Audibly said out loud, "The Tooch is in this," and I was excited. I didn't expect him to be in it. I didn't know.
He's great in this. And then like another little like cultural touchstone that kind of like cements Devil Wears Prada in a very late 2000s world for me is I was a huge fan of The Office. My whole family was. And I don't know if you watched it all the way through, but like season 4, there's an episode where Michael's essentially watching Devil Wears Prada for the first time.
Oh yeah.
And then he's treating Pam as his Anne Hathaway to his Meryl Streep. He's throwing his coats at her. They have this whole bit where he finally gets to the end and realizes that Meryl was the bad guy, as if like he didn't realize that the entire time. And then it ends. It's one of my favorite Office cold opens because it ends with him calling her Manushka, which she realizes is is it Makushla
Makushla
from
from Million Dollar
Makushla from
Baby.
Million Dollar Baby? He's like, he's gonna try to kill me.
It's so good. Yeah, that was okay. So my only familiarity with this movie was that poster that we talked about and that particular episode of The Office. That's it.
I quote, "You're not going to Paris," just as much as anything else from this movie, even though that line is
not in the movie. Yeah.
Get me Armani on the phone.
Get me Armani.
On the phone.
I
Pam's
almost
like, you want a suit?
I almost grabbed that clip to throw in here too. I was going to throw it at the end of the trailer, but I don't want to.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
We'll edit it in now.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, let me throw some quick film stats at you, and then we're gonna change it up this episode. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to describe the plot so that we can kind of get through the plot, and then we'll spend a little bit more time just discussing any element that we want afterwards.
Let's do it.
So The Devil Wears Prada, released in June of 2006, based on the book by Lauren Weisberger. Again, Anna Wintour's former assistant at Vogue. So obviously it was a big splash when this came out. I think they bought the rights to the screenplay before she had even finished the book, just because everyone was so interested in this story. Yeah. So go, Lauren.
I want to know. I want to know what Lauren's like reasoning for was it like memoirs or something? Like, did she just get
I think the book is not a memoir. It's definitely like these characters. So she's like kind of portraying this fictional world.
Interesting.
But it's very much implied to be about real situations that may or may not
so this movie could technically be based on true events.
Based on true events. Every single bit of this is true. You heard it here first. This movie was directed by David Frankel, written by I want to point this out, written by Eileen Brosh McKenna, who also created Crazy Ex-Girlfriend on the CW. I don't know if you ever saw that, but it is very fun, one of my favorites. Devil Wears Prada stars Anne Hathaway, Meryl Streep, Emily Blunt, Stanley Tucci, Simon Baker, and Adrian Grenier of Entourage fame.
Yeah,
who I'm sure we'll get into. This film made $320 million at the box office. It was a bit of a success.
A bit. My God,
it was not. It was nominated for 2 Oscars.
Really?
So Meryl Streep got a leading actress Oscar. And then it was one of the rare contemporary costume Oscar nominations. Usually when you get nominated for an Oscar for costumes, it's for like something from the Elizabethan age or some sort of historical drama. Right. Right. But this it had so much costumes. I don't think they could really ignore it. That's really probably where that's coming from. And all the clothes in this movie are just great. I love to look at them.
There's a lot of them.
There sure is. This movie became one of the most expensively costumed films in history. There's about $1 million worth of clothes used in this film.
I was curious about that. Like, these pieces that they're showing off, are they actual? Is this real couture that we're looking at? Wow.
Yeah. Meryl Streep's wearing Prada a lot of the time. Anne Hathaway's wearing what is it called? Chanel and Calvin Klein, that sort of stuff. I'm guessing they were like loaned these products for the most part, and they just like couldn't drink red wine while they were wearing them because then you can't really give it back or something.
Yeah, you break it, you buy it, kind of thing. Yeah, I believe it.
I'm hoping they didn't break too many of these clothes.
No.
So yeah, that's a bit of a primer on The Devil Wears Prada. And Justin, I'm going to set up 2 minutes.
Okay.
For you.
Can we show it
to tell me?
Can you prove it? Can you show it to the folks at home?
You want me to?
Yeah.
Do this?
Yeah, and every so often, give me the updates.
I'll give you 30-second updates.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Every 30 seconds.
Yeah. Okay. Are you ready to give a plot description
Yes.
for The Devil Wears Prada?
Here we go.
All right. Do your best.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go.
Cool. So, all right. So we open on New York City. Everybody's getting ready for their day. Everyone's getting dressed up and in their Monday morning best. Little do we know that Andy, portrayed by Anne Hathaway, she's a little schlubby. She dresses for comfort, not for show, as you see in the opening montage. Montage number 1. Shows up to her first day at Runway Magazine, a job that she just landed somehow magically. I think she was in the HR department. They brought her upstairs.
90 seconds.
Great. So she starts her job there, and she's like, "I don't think I'm going to fit in here because I'm not a skinny model." And Meryl Streep thinks so too. And she's like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "I'm Andy." And she's like, "Great. You suck. You're terrible. You're not going to work here." And she's like, "Well, I'm going to try my hardest." So what does she do? She tries her hardest. She gets help from the TUCC. She gets a new wardrobe. She starts to outshine Emily Blunt, who kind of shows her the ropes, but Emily Blunt is starting to be bad.
1 minute.
All her boyfriend and friends start to realize that, oh no, she's turning into a terrible person. She's putting all of her life into her work. This isn't good, but she's getting really good at her job. And then she goes to Paris, and Emily Blunt doesn't go to Paris. And then that's when there's a crisscross applesauce kind of thing that happens, a double cross business-wise. And then she realizes, I don't want to be this person anymore. And then she throws her phone into some fancy French water fountain, and then she actually gets the job that she wants to later. Not before she sleeps with some random guy after they break, and it's all this thing, and then she lives happily ever after in New York City. The end. That was The Devil Wears Prada.
Wow, you did not even need the full 2 minutes. You did that in 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Sweet.
Mostly because you skipped over several major plot points.
But that's the main bit. That's it.
You got the beginning and the end. You went to Paris at light speed. But we'll talk through it.
Yeah.
So Justin, before we really
Yeah.
get into kind of like our favorite moments and our notes about this, my question right off the bat, who is the villain of this movie?
The villain.
Think really hard.
The villain really is Eyebrows McGee. Is it Simon, whatever his face is? Whatever
You're
his.
talking about the blonde guy?
Yeah, the blonde guy.
You're
with
talking
the
about the mentalist?
Yes, the mentalist. Yeah, you're right. Oh my God. Yeah, him. He's the bad guy. He did not heed when she said no like 16 times.
Oh yeah, that's probably the most problematic point of this film is her clearly saying that she's drunk, and then he continues to lure her into bed. Oh man,
the real villain is on the surface it's the mentalist, but beneath the surface, the real villain underneath was her boyfriend. He was whiny as hell. He was whiny. He didn't.
That's the answer I wanted.
I know. The whole time we're watching it, Ryan is getting increasingly agitated at him. She's like, "Tell him bye, get out of here."
Anne Hathaway's boyfriend and her friend groups in general are on a mission from God to not let her climb this corporate ladder.
So I'm at odds about this, right? Because at the beginning and even to like towards the middle of the second act, she's still making fun of the job and knows that like, I'm just going to do this temporarily, whatever. And all of her friends, Joanne from Rent is there. That one guy from those 2 episodes when Pam is in New York from The Office is there.
And like all of Mad Men, I think.
Yeah. So they're all on board that like, yeah, we get it. This sucks. You're still our Andy, our best friend Andy. But she starts to make a change and she starts staying late and she missed her boyfriend's birthday, which I get. But also too, he was being a mopey little punk.
He's such a mopey little punk in this movie. And then I think one of the pieces of this film that does not age as well. I mean, obviously we talked about the clear sexual harassment and questionably, not questionably, very immoral acts of the mentalist in this movie. One of the pieces that doesn't age as well in this film is how it ends, where so about 3/4 of the way through this movie, Anne Hathaway's character Andy and her boyfriend essentially go on a break. She goes to Paris. She really finds herself. She gets the courage to step away from this job.
I really thought that they
Um,
were going to pull a Ross and Rachel, that like we
oh,
were on a break. I thought that was going to happen, but nope,
like
doesn't
he's
come up.
been sleeping with other people the whole time.
Yeah, or she was going to tell him, and he was going to get mad, but there was only 10 minutes left in the movie, so they didn't resolve it.
But then the bit that doesn't age as well is that it ends on a bit of an optimistic high note of them maybe getting back together, even though she's clearly staying in New York and he's
He's
going to
going to Boston.
Boston. So
Yeah.
like maybe they'll do long distance. I don't know. But I hate how it ends. Their conversation. She tells him that he was right about everything. Oh.
No, he
I,
said he tells her that she was right about everything.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
No? Did I
She
mishear it?
tells him
Oh,
that
she
he
tells
was
him
right
he
about
was right.
everything.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you're right. You're right. That's what happens.
He wasn't right about shit in this movie. Anyway, um,
I
that's
want what I want. I want the sequel
mm,
immediately following up. 2 weeks later, I want the fallout of everything that happened. Right?
about how like
I want
Andy
her.
can't.
I want Andy raising the bastard child of her one night stand in Paris, and she has to now live with Stanley Tucci because she broke up with her boyfriend who's now in Boston. And
Oh, that
hilarity
went
ensues.
into such a different direction than I thought it was going to go.
That's the
Wow,
sequel I want. That's the sequel I want.
the baby wears Prada.
Yes. Oh my God, you're right. That's it.
I want the sequel that is her trying to work at the New Yorker or wherever she gets a job at the end of it, and slowly going crazy because she realizes that she's an adrenaline junkie right now and nothing's really going to hit as hard as Meryl Streep bossing her around the streets of New York.
You're right.
So this movie, like I said, was a little bit haunted during production by potential backlash from Anna Wintour. So
For sure.
there were a lot of real people in the fashion industry who showed up, but then there were a lot of real people who didn't because they were afraid of being essentially excommunicated from the pages
Sure,
of
yeah.
real life Vogue.
Uh-huh.
So you've got like Heidi Klum in here. You have like some major fashion designers, and then you have, I don't know if you noticed, but Giselle
Budgeon.
Bundchen is Emily Blunt's friend in this movie.
Oh, that's right. I thought she looked familiar. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And also, Heidi Klum's in this in a blink and you'll miss it when they're in Paris,
Yeah.
right? She's there.
Yeah. Heidi Klum's in there for like half a second when they're in that. I think it's montage number 4 of the film. If you can count it as a montage of like them just meeting a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
I love the arcs in this movie. I'm kind of skipping around with my notes here, but this is such a great example of a a workplace arc where you not only have the physical makeover that Andy gets halfway through the movie once she starts like really doing good at her job and has the kind of the conversation with Tucci about how doing good isn't enough. You have to actually play the part. You have to play the game a little bit. And her rising star is a bit of a Star is Born to Emily Blunt's falling star, even though Emily Blunt wants it so much more than she does.
They kept coming back to that because a million girls would kill for this job. They said that like
That's a
6
recurring
times.
thing.
Yeah. So many.
And then you kind of realize at the end that there's been kind of like some political machinations going on behind the scenes for these higher up jobs between Meryl Streep and Stanley Tucci. There's a great betrayal at the end there, and it's
It's Game
I,
of Thrones-esque for
It's
sure.
Game of Thrones-esque, and I love any combination of the core four main characters, let's call them.
Okay.
Stanley Tucci and Emily Blunt don't get much screen time together, if at all.
Hmm.
But you could talk about Emily Blunt interacting with Anne Hathaway for days. You could talk
It's so
about
good.
the friendship that's formed between not Emily Blunt, sorry, between Anne Hathaway's character Andy and Nigel, Stanley Tucci's character. They
Hmm.
kind of like become buds
Yep.
as they grow together in this job, even though he's like the biggest bitch to her at the beginning.
It's so good though.
And then obviously you can talk about the core relationship of this movie, which is between Miranda and Andy,
Hmm.
as she goes from calling her the what does she say, like the the fat girl or something
Oh
like that.
yeah. Oh my
hire
God.
hire the
The,
smart fat girl.
yeah. The fat shaming in this movie is unreal.
Him just
Unreal.
like throwing away her corn chowder when they're late for a movie.
Which, first of all, that's such a weird choice. You're going to lunch
Oh,
in the cafeteria. You're going to get fucking corn chowder? What's wrong
we
with you?
could we could spend a year talking about how insane her first day on the job is, because like all the way from arriving and her wearing like the what are they, Doc Martens, or
Yeah.
just those really like clunky shoes, all the way into like the Cerulean monologue where she
Yeah.
gets eviscerated. That's
Yeah.
all one day. um but yeah. um so pretty much every pairing of actors in this movie is great.
It really
I always
is. Yeah.
remember it for that. And then pretty much every line in this movie is quotable, I would say. You have like some of my favorites, like, "Are you wearing the Chanel boots?" "Yeah, I am." That's meme to hell and back online right now.
Yeah.
Um, we saw in the trailer, "I'm just one stomach flew away from my goal weight."
God, that's where I was just like,
Where
it's so bad.
she's on a diet where she doesn't eat anything, and then when she feels like she's about to faint, she eats a cube of cheese.
So good.
Oh, a different time. And then there's the wonderful monologue where it's like her first month or so on the job. It's the coat and bag monologue, where one of the things that uh, Meryl Streep says as she passes by the desk is, "Find me that piece of paper I had in my hand yesterday morning."
It's so good. Everyone's had bosses like that, right? So like they're drawing parallels to these demanding, ridiculous, egomaniacal bosses, right?
Mm.
And you learn to love and hate this woman at the same time.
Oh, she's Meryl Streep is villainous in this movie. I think there's a bit of a redemption arc from her as we learn more and more about like her inner life and like what she's thinking, and how she has to be this character in order for this magazine to succeed.
Hmm.
Um, but God, you cannot look away from her the entire time she's on screen.
Hmm.
And she's obviously at the top of my list of favorite performances in this movie. And the thing I want to single out is the voice that she uses. So I read that when they did the first it's not a screen test, it's like the table read
Yeah, yeah,
for all these characters, everyone's so nervous because this is supposed to be like the most like domineering aggressive boss of all time, so
sure.
intimidating. And so like Anne Hathaway and Emily Blunt and Stanley Tucci are there and they're reading their lines, and then Meryl Streep comes out with like this voice that's barely above a whisper, which
Ooh.
she eventually called her Clint Eastwood voice. Like
Oh, yeah.
she can be the most intimidating character of all time, and the point is she doesn't have to raise her voice, because the
No.
power of her words is in what she's saying and who she is, and not how she's saying it.
Hmm.
um
I believe it. Yeah.
and you get the classic "that's all" that she says all the time. My favorite being when she calls her back into the room, and then it's like 5 minutes of her slowly looking at her shoes.
Yeah, it's just
That's
that's
all.
all. Mhm. Like, my God, it's good. Yeah,
Incredible.
yeah, like she's commanding, the respect of everyone in the room. just by being there. Period. Too, right?
Hmm.
Um, I'm surprised they never came around to making like a prequel, like
Oh
Miranda
wow,
Priestley Rise to Prada, Rise to Devilness, or something like that. Of
Miranda
like,
Priestley origins.
yeah, I'd watch it. I'd watch it just to see her struggle, and then how many people she had to squash along the way to get to where she
Wow.
was.
Yeah, I think there was maybe talks about a TV show coming out of the success of this movie, but that fell apart pretty quickly.
Mm.
Um, yeah, one note about the performances in this movie is that Anne Hathaway, for being the main character, kind of gets lost in the mix, at least for me.
Mm.
Just because she's surrounded by characters who are so heightened. You've got like Stanley Tucci, you've got Emily Blunt, kind of having this breakout role, at least in America,
Yeah,
which she got closer to an Oscar nomination, Emily Blunt, than you'd think. She got
from
like this
this
Golden
role.
Globe from this role. Yeah,
Wow.
people really liked her in this movie, and it obviously opened up the doors for her to become the Emily Blunt that we know and
That we all
love
know and love
today.
today. Yeah,
The almost Black Widow that we know and love today.
I know. What a world it could have been, right? But yeah, like you need those kinds of characters for this. Well, so hold on. You need Anne Hathaway's character to go against these three powerhouses because she is our connection to the real world, right? She's our connection to she's the grounding agent.
It's
So
practically Alice in Wonderland in all of this. She's just given these insane tasks that she has to do, and it's like adapt or die.
yeah, but like she's the connection to the audience of like, oh, I would also fumble at first day at my job doing that too. Like this is crazy. These people are insane. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. She does kind of get overshadowed by these other livelier characters.
She gets overshadowed even though she's doing some great work, I think. Especially you notice on like a rewatch. Uh, it, I don't know anything about acting, but I imagine it would take a lot to kind of be the anchor of a movie like this where so much is happening.
Yeah.
And she has a lot of really fun comedic moments too. One of my favorites is like when she gets the task to get the Harry Potter manuscript and she goes
Ooh.
back to her desk and kind of like almost hyperventilates a little bit where she kind of has like a moment. And then there's her running through Paris, just going shit, 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 shit on the way to try to warn Miranda about
Oh,
the
that's right.
impending merger and the
Leaving
firing.
her shame behind from her one night stand in in Paris. Yeah.
Just the biggest smoky eye you've ever seen.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I said it before, but I really love how the relationship between her character and Tucci's character develops into uh, from him being introduced by walking into the room, immediately
Go.
claiming that
Like,
she
who
ate
is
the onion bagel.
that? Yeah.
Who is that? And then asking Miranda if they're doing a before and after piece that he doesn't know about.
Won't even acknowledge her existence. It's so
Oh,
good.
one of the best things about this as an office comedy is how everyone in the office immediately, well, how her coming into this office and everyone immediately knows that she's not important enough to not completely interrupt. He walks into her job interview and then immediately just starts talking to Meryl Streep about
Yeah.
work, even
Yeah.
though she's standing right there.
Uh-huh.
No one has time to be nice in this workplace, and it's amazing.
Fashion, baby.
Um,
It's fashion.
yeah, what are your thoughts? What were your obviously there were some points that didn't age too well in this movie.
Yeah.
What else surprised you here?
Um, well, really, the power of performance for sure. Stanley Tucci really does a knockout job. Being, the friend mentor, taking her under his wing, behind closed doors kind of thing. Her secret weapon, essentially.
Mhm.
Um,
He becomes her fairy godmother a bit in this world.
Definitely. I don't proclaim to be a fashionista, nor do I, strive to be one. So I'm sure there's a ton of stuff that I just can't and couldn't appreciate for the things that just get thrown out, the couture and the going to Paris and all this stuff and whatever, and meeting the people and doing the thing and name dropping. Um, but yeah, like this is a character study for sure. It's a descent into madness. It is a descent into a now dead mentality of hustle culture, which I find
Hustle culture, size zero culture,
so bad.
Palm Pilot culture.
It's bad. Like, I would be curious to see how short this movie would be if it were made in 2022, right? Like, the person shows up and gets immediately eviscerated and be like, I don't need this. The end. I quit. Movie over.
There's an interesting through line between this movie and Ocean's 8. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Is that
Also
the
starring Anne
prequel?
Hathaway. No, that's the one with all women. So Sandra Bullock.
Okay. Yeah, I did see that.
So part of that movie is them. Well, the main heist in that movie is they're stealing from the Met Gala. And so the Met Gala is thrown by Vogue, by Anna Wintour. Google her.
I will.
And so she's obviously known as this dragon lady, especially after this movie came out, because as we can see in this movie, she kind of has to be in order to succeed and be the biggest figurehead in this industry.
Yep.
But in that movie, she does cameo a little bit, and they specifically put in a scene where her personal assistant kind of has to like dip her head in and interrupt her in a call or say that like someone's waiting out in the office, and she's so nice to her. It's just like it's the easiest interaction of all time.
Yeah.
To the point where in the movie theater, I clocked it immediately. I was like, they're trying to make up for Devil Wears Prada right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're trying too hard, but everyone was in on it. Everyone knows what they're doing.
The ripples from this movie are insane.
Yeah, I bet. But yeah, I did not see the ending coming that way. I thought originally, seeing how the story is starting to progress and how the chips are starting to fall, I thought for sure, as soon as Miranda starts to bare her soul, literally in front of Andy in her Paris room, apartment, whatever, I was like, oh, okay, here it is. This is the game-changing moment. This is the I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be this to my children. And Anne Hathaway was going to be like, you don't have to be. I don't want to turn out like you either. Let's do this together. And I thought they were going to be best friends and they were going to change the fashion industry and change the work culture and all this kind of stuff. And then she wasn't going to sleep with what's his face and everything was going to be fine. And then it took a left turn of like, I'm bearing my soul to you. But anyway, that's it. See you later. And then it goes in this weird direction. And then it gets political the next day. And then she quits. So it was a really weird like last 20 minutes of the movie that I didn't see coming. So like I appreciated that because it didn't feed into what I thought it was going to happen, but it's a weird ending for sure.
Well, there's kind of a fun little undercurrent of Stockholm syndrome beneath this movie because
Ooh, yeah.
as the movie progresses, you can see how all of the people who work with Miranda start to just respect and even love her, despite being treated like actual shit by her, just because they all either want to be her or they want at least just like one tiny glimmer of a look from her for doing a good job. And so you can see, especially in that scene where she kind of lets her guard down mentally and physically. She doesn't have any makeup on in that scene. You can see how much Andy kind of cares for her at that point,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy. But I think what we're circling around, and if we think about the theme of this podcast, like what has really stuck this movie firmly in the culture for me, is this is a movie with performances that have lasted and that have really made impacts in what people think of when they think of good acting performances, and especially like good monologues. I think of this movie a lot. And so there's have you ever watched the Oscars at all when they're giving out awards for like acting and stuff?
No.
So they'll have like 5 nominees or so, and they'll, in a normal broadcast, the Oscars these days are kind of insane, but in a normal broadcast they'll have like a clip of whatever movie that they're nominated in. That's kind of like their Oscars clip. And it shows them just acting their chops off,
Sure.
and so you get to kind of like see all these people's clips up against each other. And this movie was just like built for Oscar clips.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I again, I think Anne Hathaway is a little bit left out in this way, but the other 3 members of the main cast have very specific moments that are just like, I don't want to say like awards bait, but like there's just so much to grab onto and just chew on
Yeah.
in these moments that they have, and Meryl Streep actually has a few of them, and I kind of made note of all of them in my monologue section of my notes. So obviously, with Meryl Streep, you have the moment on Andy's first day where she gives the famous Cerulean
Yeah.
monologue,
Yeah.
which is probably the single most lasting bit of this movie that just has the most effect
Oh, yeah.
within the culture at large. You watch this movie, you're going to know exactly what Cerulean is. You watch that monologue, and you immediately it's a brilliant piece of writing, because you immediately know how the fashion industry works, or at the very least you have a pretty great introduction into how the fashion industry works. It explains why the fashion industry is important, because it fuels how we express ourselves
Yeah.
in our everyday lives. It explains why Andy's job in particular is important on this first day where she's kind of doubting herself and wondering why she's even there. It's it's also kind of just the ultimate smackdown of Andy in a moment where she commits this faux pas in the middle of this movie, and just as a movie scene that is being filmed with a camera, it's kind of an amazing work of just like suspense and dread, as there's like a bit of a pause after she does her first little like giggle
Oh,
during
yeah.
the movie,
Uh-huh.
where she doesn't necessarily notice at first that they're all staring at her, and then she looks up and her face just drops, and then eventually like Emily Blunt's in the background and she's realizing what's happening, and she's just smiling the entire time watching Andy get dressed down. The the composition of the scene is kind of amazing. And then obviously the monologue itself, this is when I talk about like how this movie has such an impact on gay culture. There's a few examples online of like uh drag queens performing a show, and then they're just dancing, and then all of a sudden the music will change to like this monologue, and they'll just they'll voice the entire thing the same way that they would like do an actual song.
Uh-huh.
And it's amazing, and they'll act it out. I'll send you a link.
I
It's
would love to
it's
see that.
kind of
That's
great.
amazing.
um, and then obviously you have Streep's monologue about the divorce, which again is so symbolic in the way that she's not wearing makeup. She kind of has her
Hmm.
guard down, showing how her relationship with Andy has grown. And then even in that small moment, like every word that the writers chose just has some meaning. I love when she says, she's like talking about how Rupert Murdoch should cut her a check, and then she says like another Mr. Priestley down the drain. Priestley
Yeah.
obviously being her last
Yeah.
name and not her husband's.
Genius.
Um, it's so great, and every sentence is kind of used to give some deeper insight into her character, and it feels so natural coming out of her. And then you have Tucci's monologue when I think it's after Anne Hathaway's character fails to get Streep home from Miami during the hurricane because
Yeah.
she can't charter a jet.
No.
And
Can I do
so
that?
she's told that she's a disappointment. She goes and kind of like starts crying in Stanley Tucci's office, and Stanley Tucci just immediately has no sympathy for her.
None.
And then he kind of jokes around a little bit how she's expecting a gold star when she's really uh, she doesn't really believe in what the work is,
Yeah.
and then that extends into this scene of him talking about like what the actual magazine is. It's more than just pieces of paper, and what it stands for so many people out there who may not fit in as much as Andy might have in her own life. That's a great moment. And then uh, I, I I say Blunt was kind of like circling the awards drain during this whole movie. I think it was just a great breakout performance for her when the role probably didn't require her to be as watchable as she
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
She kind of just had to be bitchy, but like
She's still charming.
she's one of the best parts of any scenes that she's in. And then she has the part, one of her last scenes is her in the hospital after she gets hit with a taxi.
Just going to town on pudding and bread. You eat carbs, for God's sake.
Eating the bread. You eat carbs. You sold your soul when you first put on that pair of Jimmy Choos. I saw it.
I saw it. It's so good. Yeah. Poor Emily Blunt. Yeah. Just got wrecked by that car. I didn't see that coming either. That was amazing.
I've seen people do just like close readings of how she opens the pudding cup in that scene and then just starts scooping it out. It's amazing, like some of the choices that she's making there.
Yeah. But yeah, I want to go back. I want to go back and touch on the Tucci chat, toot chat that he has with her in his office. There's some real good gems in there. You know, about like really putting your best foot forward and try. It's really just like you're not even trying. You got to try your best.
He explains to her what it means to even try her best because she thinks that she is trying her best.
Yeah, and you know, part of it is you have to believe in the culture or believe in the person that you're working with or the people that you work with. I mean, and there's
or at the very least know why they're important and not kind of treat them as a side gig on your way towards journalism.
Yeah, capital J journalism.
Journalism.
So like the real message goes completely over her head and she's like, I know. I'm going to just camouflage myself and just fit in and keep trying and just do it. And then she starts to drink the Kool-Aid a little bit. And that's when the turn starts to happen for Anne Hathaway's character. That's when she starts to stay late. That's when she starts to go way above and beyond. Betraying her friends, betraying her boyfriend.
I will hear no defense of the friends and boyfriends. I'm sorry. You can be on that side of the river. I am not.
Like I want to see the reconciliation between her and chick from Rent. Like when they're at the art show and she's like, "Who the hell is that?" Like.
I want her to hang out with Emily Blunt out of the office.
Yeah, but then like coming back together, she'll come back to her friend and be like, "Yeah, I quit that job. Yeah, not a big deal." And oh yeah, that other guy. I mean, I did sleep with him in Paris, but like it's not even a big deal. We were on a break, so like
I freaking bagged him.
I bagged me a good one.
Then I left.
Then I bounced.
I bagged and bounced.
Oh my God, but yeah, I out of all the monologues, basically what they're explaining is that like this is a marketing machine. People dress the way that they dress because we tell them to. The marketing or the fashion industry is the way it is because we make it so. Which is, you know, a weird capitalistic interesting take on it. But out of all the monologues, yeah, for sure, the Stanley Tucci one I think is really powerful, and there's some good stuff in there about like how to even go about your daily life, about just work and putting your your brave face on and doing the work and doing the hard stuff. And then the ending monologue of the facade is down, the guard is down. This is the real person. I mean, and it got me. I was like, "Ooh, here's the change. Here's the change. Here's the turn." And then immediately, the guard comes back up, and the steel, face comes back on, and she's just back to business. You can tell like Andy hands her the book or hands her the whatever, and you can tell that she's tired. She's tired of doing the job. Even when she's at her house, when she hands her the book, right? You can tell she's tired.
Meryl's in it till the bitter end, Miranda in this movie,
Yeah.
and the real turn at the end of this movie, the big third act, is that she's kind of inviting Anne Hathaway's character to come with her.
Yeah, come to the dark side. Yeah.
Come be like me, and that's where the big choice comes into play, which she eventually says no to and throws her phone into the fountain, committing one of several felonies that Anne Hathaway commits.
Is that a felony?
Oh, I would guess. She's littering in Paris.
Yeah.
She's going to get extradited from the country.
Yeah. Just fucking up left and right, man.
Yeah, I
So
like to imagine right after that scene, she got tackled by like 3 security guards of that fountain.
Immediately. I wanna know, what is the read? What is your read on the end? The ending scene where Andy's across the street, she's doing her own thing, she's happy, she's dressed better than she was in the beginning, but not back to her, top tier where she was when she was working at Runway. She sees Meryl across the street and she gives her one of these, like, sup, remember me? We're still friends. But Meryl's just like looks at her and then puts on her sunglasses and then drives away, but she gives a little smirk to the camera quietly. What does that mean, Joe?
There's several things happening in that scene. First off, you have the moment where Andy waves at Miranda. Miranda obviously has to maintain some level of decorum. She can't be openly expressive here.
No.
Because this girl like quit on her and abandoned her in Paris. Hell no. I think the important moments of that scene are the fact that it shows Anne Hathaway's character, no longer necessarily needs Miranda's approval in order to continue on with her life. She kind of gives a shrug and a smile and walks down the street into her next job. And then what you see then is that Miranda is seeing her doing all this, and then she gives a little smile of her own. And how I interpret that is Miranda seeing, yes, this girl turned down my offer of basically being me, but what she's doing instead is taking everything that was good about her coming into this job, taking everything that's good that she learned during this job, and kind of combining that into something that's better than all of us all together, and going out into the world and being a power of her own. And so you see you see Miranda's little smirk at the end, and she's like, yeah, I played a part in that. And then of course the scene ends with one of the funniest moments of the film, where she just looks at the driver and says, go. Because he's just been waiting there the entire time.
I want to see the shot. He's looking up at the rearview mirror like, who's she smiling at? What is going on?
She's having a moment, and then she rolls her eyes, and they just drive off, and then the movie's over.
I was like, oh, that was abrupt. Yeah,
that's great.
It is good. I was curious to see what you thought. What is that? What does her smile even actually mean? So I get that. That makes sense.
Yeah,
she had a hand in it.
Yeah, this is a movie about growth and who wants to accept it versus not. Any final thoughts on the movie before we jump into the little game I have for you? We talked about the montages in addition to the monologues. I would be remiss if we did not mention the Vogue montage, which is
let's hit it. Let's talk about it. Yeah. And that's after the show, right? And they're kind of just walking around, shaking hands with everybody.
No.
Oh, no.
I mean Vogue by Madonna, which is the song that plays
one. Yeah.
When she kind of has like it's right after her makeover, and it's such a fun little bit of camera work. Because
that's right, where she's changing outfits constantly.
Special effects during this movie, basically.
Hardly any. Yeah, it's just quick camera changes. No, I thought that one was really clever. It was really smart. It's
really fun.
Did she pay for all those, or was the TUCC just giving her them for free under the table?
There's several things that are confusing about this movie. The two largest ones being How did Andy get a first interview at the personal assistant to the editor of Runway job just from like a temp agency?
Yeah.
And then 2 is, where is she getting all these outfits that she could just wear out? I think the implication is that the closet is kind of just open for all of them, and she has like an in, and so she can kind of just try on whatever she wants.
But
It is very confusing.
But she's a size 6, which apparently is humongous.
She's a 4 at the end, which is
gross. It's gross, not growth. I hated that. I like all the.
We love it for her.
Go girl. Yeah. Her boyfriend's whiny. He deserved it. He's a chef. Like, and he makes her grilled cheese.
He's
with
like a
fancy
line
cheese.
cook.
Like, yeah, but now he's a sous chef,
like-
so good for him. There's growth. There's growth.
He makes sandwiches like in the Bear or something like that.
Yeah. So like there's actual growth. You know, he's a line cook making grilled cheese. Now he's going back to Baston. He's going to be a sous chef. Good for him.
Not at all. He's going to cheat on her in Boston.
If they stay together, who knows?
If they stay together.
He's going to be a stepdad. So, you know. So, Joe, I want to know more. Just tell me a little bit more about like just the cultural impact of this movie. I know we touched on a couple things of it, but just like, why is this movie important?
This movie kind of gave a lot of people their first glimpse into a fashion industry that was a little bit cold and confusing for a lot of us, and this one kind of lifted the rug for that. And like I said, so many of the lines, the monologues, the performances, the inflections, the way that people act in this movie have lived on through the years. People are still talking about it to this day. I could pull up a million tweets right now from today that mention The Devil Wears Prada, just because it's such a great example of smart snarkiness. I think the script is one of the best parts of this movie.
Yeah.
Just because, like I said, every line is quotable for a million different situations.
For sure.
And it doesn't hurt if you're gay when you're quoting them.
Sure, why not? Yeah. I get it, and I can see the lasting impact, and just the just the powerhouse that is Meryl Streep just coming in and just commanding and carrying the shit out of this movie.
Yeah.
Thought it was great. It was good. This was a good choice, Joe. This was a good choice.
I'm glad you liked it. And I am glad I got to introduce this to the entire household.
Yeah, you did.
I want to know your wife's take on the movie. Did she like it better than you think?
I think she might have. I think she might have. I thought it was entertaining, and we talked about it for at least an hour or so afterwards before we went to bed.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good.
It's a great movie. It was kind of billed as a bit of a chick flick, but I think its lasting staying power has shown that it was a lot more than whatever that the definition for that type of movie was at the time.
Yeah.
Justin, I have a game for you.
Okay.
That is Devil Wears Prada themed.
Okay.
I'm trying something different here. That you may hate, but it's less our typical trivia game, and it's gonna require a little bit more improv on your part.
Got it.
But roll with me here.
Okay. Yeah.
So, about halfway through the 2006 movie The Devil Wears Prada, starring Anne Hathaway and Meryl Streep, Meryl Streep's character is angry at Anne Hathaway's character because she had one job and she completely fucked up dropping off the book at Meryl Streep's house. She went upstairs, which is a huge no-no. So Anne Hathaway goes into her office expecting any amount of things, and Meryl Streep asks her to go get the new Harry Potter book.
Yeah.
Which again, such a 2006 movie. They don't mention what Harry Potter book
We had
they're
we had
talking
to
about,
pause it.
but
We had to pause it, and we were like, okay,
it's
what book is it? Okay, it was
it's
2006, the year before Half-Blood Prince came out. It's got to be Deathly Hallows. And then you
I
see
always
later,
thought it was Half-Blood Prince, but I googled it today, and it does have to be Deathly
you
Hallows.
can see when the girls are reading the books on the train, you can pause it and you look and it says book 7. So it's like, okay,
Perfect.
it's Deathly Hallows. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so Anne Hathaway at first thinks that she can just go down to Barnes and Noble and get the book. But then Meryl Streep is like, no, you fucking idiot. I want the unpublished manuscript
Manuscript from
for
J.K.
the
Rowling.
new
Yeah.
Harry Potter book that J.K. Rowling has just written. Possibly the most well-guarded, inaccessible book of all time.
Yeah.
The last book in the Harry Potter series. And she has about 4 or 5
4
hours
hours,
to
yeah.
get it. And I love that whole sequence. The way she gets it is insane. But I love how she eventually ends up getting the book, making copies of the book to distribute to the twins on the train,
Yeah.
and getting Miranda's Starbucks as a final touch. So here is the game I have for you. It is called, it might be a recurring game on our podcast. We'll see.
Okay.
It's called How to Steal a Harry Potter Manuscript.
Okay.
Here are the rules.
All right.
The time, the year is 2006.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So transport yourself back to 2006.
Got it.
You have 1 minute, and I'll put 1 minute on the clock, to explain how you would use the following items / people to steal the unpublished manuscript for Harry Potter in the Deathly Hallows in the span of 5 hours.
Oh my God.
Do you understand so far?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you 3 items.
Okay.
And you're going to have to tell me how you would use them.
Got it.
To steal the manuscript, which, for all we know, exists in J.K. Rowling's house right now.
Yeah.
Because it's 2006.
It's
She lives in
2006.
a castle.
A literal castle.
Your first item.
Yep.
$30 in cash.
$30 in cash. Got it.
Your second item. The actual Starship Enterprise from Star Trek and all of the technology on board. Your third item.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Third item. James Gandolfini's personal cell phone number. Do you got all that?
Yeah, so I have $30 in cash in my hand. I have the keys to the actual Starship Enterprise and all the technology on board. Does that include
it's parked? It's parked right outside.
It's parked on the roof.
We will say that you have immediate access to it if you need it.
Are the crew involved? Are they included, or is it a big empty ship?
The original series crew is involved, not Next Generation.
Okay, the OG series. So it's Kirk and okay, everybody.
It's William Shatner.
It's Shatner. Okay, specifically Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. Great. And then James Gandolfini's cell phone number or his cell phone. Like people are gonna answer.
That'd be amazing. No, you have James Gandolfini's cell phone number, circa 2006. I will leave it up to interpretation what your relationship with James Gandolfini is, though.
Okay.
I
have a minute to come up with the plan on how I'm going to steal the manuscript to Harry Potter 7 from the clutches of... Okay.
No, you have to come up with the plan right now. You have a minute to tell me the plan.
Yeah, I have a minute. I have a minute to tell you the plan of how I would spend my 5 hours. Yeah.
Would you like for us to put on our special hold music to give you a chance to put your thoughts together? Or are you ready to go?
Let's do a little bit of hold music, and then we're not going to go the whole time. But yeah, we'll put the hold music on, then we'll come back. We'll be right back.
Throw on that hold music.
Please continue to hold. Tu llamada es muy importante para nosotros. Actualmente es el 4 en la fila para hablar con un representante. Continúe esperando. Okay,
All right.
and we're back.
We're back after several minutes. Justin has been tasked with stealing the manuscript, the unpublished Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, using $30 in cash, the Starship Enterprise, and all of the technology and crew therein, and James Gandolfini's personal cell phone number, circa 2006.
Yep.
Within 5 hours, he must steal the manuscript and deliver it to Miranda Priestley, aka his boss at Runway. And I didn't mention this at first, but you get bonus points if you can also figure out a way to get her Starbucks as well that she asked for.
Great.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, 1 minute is on the clock, starting now.
Great. All right. So with that $30 cash, I'm going to put $20 in the tank to fill up the Starship Enterprise based on gas prices in 2006. It was about $1.57 if I remember. So I'm going to put $20 in, fill it up. It's going to be great. I'm going to go I'm going to jump in the ship, hop clear across the space, outer space. For those of you who are not familiar, just going to go out that way. Go to Klingon war zone. I'm going to barter a peace treaty. I'm going to bring them back
30 seconds.
with me. Bring them back with me. We're going to fly straight and like hover like menacingly at J.K. Rowling's house and say like, I have lasers, targeted on your location. If you don't give us the manuscript, she's obviously going to give it, and we're going to beam it up. We're going to beam her up too because she wants to come. So now we have J.K. Rowling and that. So with the remaining $10, I'm going to swing by the local Starbucks, do that, and then in the final time, I'm just going to call James and say, "Hey, what's up, James?" He'd be like, "Hey, how you doing? How's it going?" We're gonna have
wow, that is time, and you did not do that how I thought you would, which I don't know why that surprises me. I gave you the Starship Enterprise because it has teleportation technology, but no, you went immediately for let's threaten J.K. Rowling with death instead of teleporting into her room and stealing the manuscript. I did love how you brought in the 2006 gas price. Very timely. All in all, you did it. You had a great conversation with Gandolfini, even though you didn't even need it. And you got the bonus points. You got Meryl or Starbucks. Wow.
We did it.
That was impressive. And you got all your points.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Justin, what are your final thoughts on 2006's The Devil Wears Prada? Would you recommend this to someone else?
I would recommend. It is if nothing else, this is a really good look at the year 2006. This is the early 2000s in a bottle. To the fashion, like general everyday fashion, right? To the technology, to the haircuts, everything. This is just like a really nice thing. It's a cautionary tale for sure. Don't take your job too seriously because you will turn into the literal devil. But yeah, it was a good flick. I feel complete and whole that I have partook in such a impactful movie to a community that's like that's important to me too. I always felt kind of like left out and not a part of the conversation. Now I get the memes. Now I get to be a part of the memes and tweet mean things to people if I want, and throw in a GIF of Meryl Streep at the end.
This episode is just the beginning. We're gonna have to check back in 6 months to see like how much of culture you can now take in and understand now that you've seen this movie.
My cup runneth over.
Oh, so much. Thank you for unpacking this 2006 time capsule with me. As we were saying. I had a really good time watching this movie. Any excuse to watch it is great.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I got to force you to watch it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I love it. I could watch it again today if I wanted.
I could too. I could too now. I can now be part of that. It can just be on in the background now in my house just because.
All right.
We've done it. Well, that's
we did.
We did it. We did the thing. So yeah, so that's been the Uncultured Cinematic Universe. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Justin.
All right. See y'all.